So basically, they're anything that tries to cast aspersions on vaccines. So whether vaccines cause autism, whether vaccines cause serious diseases like cancer or diabetes, whether vaccines actually don't prevent disease, whether there are microchips in the vaccines. We've heard all of these things sort of floating around in social media over the last year or so, particularly with the COVID vaccine. And so YouTube is basically saying you cannot have a video that promotes any of these theories.
And how will it likely be moderated? And do you foresee this creating any problems?
Well, it's already created some interesting problems with Russia Today, which is one of the Russian state media organizations, and their channel actually got blocked briefly, the same way that Sky News Australia got blocked for a week not long ago for spreading vaccine misinformation. They then tried to back channel through another German provider the same content. YouTube detected it and then basically canceled both accounts. And so now Russian government is saying we may block YouTube in Russia because of this.
What reaction is this drawing from users and content creators?
Well, there's one particular one, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. in America, who's probably the largest purveyor of vaccine misinformation, as well as being the son of Robert F. Kennedy. And his channel was canceled completely. And I think he'd been warned several times about it, but it was canceled completely. So he's a very high-profile example of someone who's just had their account wiped out.
And what implications might it have for YouTube going down the line?
Well, we think about YouTube as being the recommendation engine on YouTube feeds us things that it knows that we like because of other things that we've watched. And of course, this has been a problem with people getting radicalized by watching certain videos. And it means that the endless fountain of vaccine misinformation in YouTube may not work as well at getting people to become either vaccine hesitant or completely anti-vax.
Meanwhile, Facebook has been heavily criticised this week in US Senate hearings. Why is that?
Well, it looks like Facebook was trying to create an Instagram for younger teenagers. So Instagram's basically aimed at people above 16 years old. And they were trying to create an Instagram that was going to be for younger teenagers. But of course, the mental health toll of Instagram is becoming clearer and clearer, particularly among young women and girls. And so I think there was quite a bit of pushback because Facebook has basically been ignoring the cries of its own researchers, indicating that it's been causing problems.
What has the company said about it?
Well, one of the folks who actually runs Instagram was recorded in an interview last week where he basically made an analogy comparing Instagram and social media to cars. It's like, look at cars. Yes, they kill people, but they're a greater social good. And so, yes, social media might kill people. And he actually said this. This is on record, but it's a greater social good.
And it comes as the company announces it'll shelve plans to create an Instagram for children. What happened there?
Well, again, it seems as though the pushback is going to be so severe from so many interest groups, and again, across the political spectrum, with people who would not normally be joined together, have been united to prevent this because they've seen what's happened to young adults and to teenagers who can become very mentally unwell when using Instagram.
Can you tell us a bit more about how this happens?
Well, essentially, Instagram can feed a young person images of body that would then perhaps make them feel as though their body is inadequate. We see this particularly with young women, but actually also happening with young men. So they get basically images of beauty that are unrealistic and that they don't really understand or retouch, but there's so many of them and they're coming from them everywhere that essentially these people take that on and they realize they aren't measuring up to this standard and an artificial standard. But of course, the algorithm keeps on feeding them more and more of this, so they really become locked in a bit of a dance with this where they're never measuring up to what they're seeing as the standard for beauty.
You can see how that can become really dangerous for young children especially. Meanwhile, what can you tell us about Facebook shareholders launching legal action? What are they alleging board members have done?
So this week in America, two groups of shareholders filed a massive lawsuit, and it's a civil lawsuit against Facebook, basically charging that Facebook has been essentially paying money to the U.S. government to prevent Mark Zuckerberg from being listed as personally responsible for some of the privacy violations that were exposed back in 2017 with the Cambridge Analytica scandal that happened. And the FTC wanted to fine Facebook about $100 million for that. And Facebook, in order to prevent Mark Zuckerberg from being named personally responsible in the complaint, agreed to pay 50 times that amount, $5 billion. That's around 20% of Facebook's annual revenue in 2017. And these shareholders really want to know why their own money, the profits of their own shares, were being handed to the government just to protect the CEO of the company.
When do you think they'll find out? How do you think this will play out?
Well, already, the funny thing is they don't have to do a lot of discovery because all of this has already come out in other government lawsuits from all the jurisdictions around the world that have been looking into Facebook. So now it's just basically going to have to go in front of a judge. But of course, American civil trials take many years. So I suspect this is going to be a few years away.
We'll be watching. Mark Pesce, thank you.
Thank you.